All right, Grasshoppers. All right, here we are. We got our fan field reporter, Janine Marie, here. We're going to, in a few minutes, we're going to talk about the Hank situation, see what the fans are feeling. Ron tried to be a little bit, he's got his draft shirt on, and Dave did not disappoint there, dressed like impeccably. I went in my closet there, and all I could find was black or blue. So,
a black t-shirt. Do you have a shirt that has a collar, or?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, saving it.
Right.
As soon as the virus is over.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Dude. Yeah. Well, they're
black, blue, or
what's up with that?
He's pulling out the guns.
Yeah.
You got to put those things in ice. They're swelling up on you.
Do you guys have any ice bags there?
It's over there.
Yeah.
You got to put some weight.
Hey, Gresh, let's see yours. Let's go.
All right. So we had the draft, and we'll talk about that. But the big news that we want to talk to with Janine about is from a fan standpoint, the news that, first of all, Hank is gone. Second of all, he's going to sign with the Washington Capitals. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, you know what? There's some people who are completely thrilled that he's gone. But the majority is upset, and they don't want to see him with Washington. But I want to see him go there. I'd like to see him play over there.
Okay. And what if he was to go on and win the cup at the expense of the Rangers? What do you think of that?
Not at the expense. Sorry, Hank.
Yeah.
If we're not in it, go for it. I really want him to win a cup. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
But
I was kind of surprised to hear it was Washington Capitals. What do you guys think? Are you guys surprised by that?
Not really. It's a veteran team. It's on the East Coast. It's a team that's got a chance. They've got the young Russian. Holtby's not going to re-sign there. He's going to, so really when you look at it, apparently at the last two deadlines, Colorado had zero interest in Henry Lundqvist. So I know we talked about Colorado as being a possible destination. But that's apparently the scuttlebutt there. And that's out west too. I just think.
But apparently this time around, though, it's not, the rumors I was hearing this time around, Colorado was involved.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying. That either that's okay. I guess.
No, there was zero at the deadline. There was zero. Well, maybe it changed. Well, they couldn't talk about him now, legally.
Yeah.
But at the last two deadlines, they showed zero interest in him.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
they could have used him this year.
Yeah. Well, I think we talked before. I think Colorado's issue was they got so banged up injury-wise, right?
I guess it does make sense in Washington, right? That young Russian goaltender got hurt there right before the play. So
again, you got to think that that's a pretty mature room.
Yep.
Not like he's going in there and having to be anything other than the guy that. At the end of the day, the question is he good enough? Is he good enough to stop the puck over a more consistent time than what he's showing? And listen, I think, on the business start of it all, I think we all agree that there was not a lot of options from a Rangers standpoint, right? And it wasn't like he wasn't involved. He's been involved in the get-go, and I do know that it took him a day or two to kind of get his head around what was moving on, and but he's ready for the next challenge, and good for him.
Yeah, he said I forgot what the quote that he said, but he's not ready to give up.
Right.
How does Holtby? What do you think Holtby thinks about this?
Oh, he's gone anyways. He would go back there. Yeah.
Hope he'll be in Boston.
Okay.
No, it's going to be in Edmonton.
Yeah.
So?
Yeah.
Just speculate. I don't know.
Well, he's from Saskatoon, I think.
Yeah, but I don't know. Do you think that guy? I hear that about Toronto sometimes, where people say, "Oh, the kid's from Toronto. He'll probably want to go back to Toronto." Do you guys ever think that way? Like, I never favored, said I want to go back to Toronto because I'm from the Toronto area.
Well, first of all, they got to want you.
That's me.
That'd be a pretty important first step.
Well, maybe if you had your family, if you were there the whole time, and not to go back. But Hank has been living here for so long.
Well, the thing is, first of all, none of us had those options, right?
Right.
And I think if I had, because Toronto for me was the team that that was my team until Orr went to Boston. And if I'd had a chance to play in Toronto, I thought that would be pretty cool. Now, again, I don't think any city's easy to play in these days with the media scrutiny. But, I wouldn't, Toronto would have been appealing for me, given the fact that, I grew up close to there, and at least for my team when I was a kid, young kid.
How far is Kitchener from there? An hour?
Yeah, about an hour. About an hour, 45 minutes from the airport, hour and 10 minutes from downtown. So
Didn't you live at a dead end street?
did I? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember going there a
Yeah, exactly.
few
You
years
brought
back.
Gresh, you brought Gresh home, Dave?
Yeah, we did. We had to hide
the car
we
outside.
had to hide the
Left in
valuables.
car,
Of course, we didn't have any valuables. We
Yeah.
didn't have any valuables. It was,
Yeah.
but no, Greg.
So, Janine, what are they going to do with Ryan Strome?
Oh, I'm worried about a few people actually. What do you, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about D'Angelo?
I don't think he's going anywhere right now.
You think they'll move him around?
No, I think D'Angelo's going to stay. But he's got arbitration rights, doesn't he, Dave?
Yeah, he does. He has arbitration rights, and probably the best case if they can get away with it is it's a short-term deal, like a year deal. Like Matt, take the arbitration number and play it out for a year and let him go, because they've got, again, this kid in Sweden, Lundqvist, and they drafted. Well, the kid they drafted, but he's still another 3 years away. The kid they drafted the second pick in the first round. He's a left-handed shot. Now, the other option for D'Angelo is you keep him for a year. You put him on the left side. Put him on the left side. See if you can play there.
Why do I find it easier for left shot defensemen to be able to go over the right side, but right shot defensemen go to the left side for some reason. It's harder for them.
That's because we're smarter.
Is that what it is? Good point.
Yeah.
But anyway, I saw that kid Schneider play last year,
Mm-hmm.
and when I was up at the opening game, it was Winnipeg Ice against the Brandon team.
Mm-hmm.
This kid they picked with the second pick in the first round.
Yeah, the
Second pick.
19th pick. Yeah.
Yeah, and he, I think it was first period or beginning of the second period, out. The kid, they might think he's like 3 years away, but I wouldn't say that far.
Yeah.
I'm not contradicting you, Dave. I'm just saying
No.
the kid is he's like a defenseman like Wilson. Only Wilson's a forward.
Yeah.
Like he likes to hit. He's a big kid, weighs over 200 some pounds, 18 years old. Like all these guys they drafted this year are like, I looked at a couple of them. There were the first pick 6'2", second pick 6'2", third pick 6'3".
You know what and also what they all were?
Yeah,
All Canadians.
I know.
Yeah.
All Canadians. I think.
Is that supposed to mean something? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It means we had drafted 3 Canadians in the last 3 drafts.
Right.
And that you can say what you like, but there is a certain thing that it's you don't want to classify it verbatim to the where a guy's from, but the Canadians have a certain style that I think you need to grind it out, grit it out.
Yeah.
And every one of these guys that they've, I think it's 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9 for Canadians.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's JD's influence. I really do.
Yeah.
Good.
You need that. You don't need it in the regular season, but you need it when it comes to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Look at a couple guys in Tampa. Look at St. Louis the year before.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know you need the finesse too. You need both elements, but you have to make sure.
Did you have drafts when you guys were playing?
Yeah, the doors were open.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that comment, Janine? Like we were so old that we didn't have
No,
I do.
I just don't remember. I guess I wasn't interested. Like,
Yeah.
I watched the games, but I don't think I was as interested in watching that.
I don't think you were really that interested 46 years ago in the draft.
Yeah. That's, I think you did say she's old, but you know what? There's no alternative for us. Like, so what? We're getting old. That's the deal.
Yeah.
But what was it like? I mean, what did they do? Like, how did you, like today, it's such a big thing.
They had it at a hotel. I think actually the Royal York in Toronto, they first started. And it's actually kept a secret. They were talking about this on the draft show. They actually kept it a secret from everybody. They would call up the players, but they didn't let the media know who was drafted by who.
Yeah, well, the year Dave and myself were drafted, they had it in Montreal, in the Montreal office,
Right.
in the NHL office. And then they would call you and tell you that you were drafted, right?
Yeah.
But I was in a bar in Long Beach, so I didn't really get to hear it until I got back to my cell phone wasn't working. So
You didn't have a cell phone back then.
Yeah. No, the tin can. Yeah.
So that's
After he was drinking, he did maybe.
A cell phone, right? Yeah.
he had the first cell phone in the history of mankind.
I walked to the bathroom too many times, and the string in my can came out.
That's right. That ringing in your head was from what you were drinking at the time.
God.
Yeah, it was-
Well, I think for me, we were in the same draft, and my lawyer at the time, he was having a get together. He had like 6 of us were taken in the first round, and he was having a little get together in Toronto. And I actually found out as I was driving to Toronto, I found out on the radio that I was drafted by the Rangers. So it was a lot different. And but that was even different than the guys before us, right? And, you know, now it's a little bit mind numbing though. I don't know if you watch. Did you watch it at all? Did you watch the draft? Right.
Yep.
Of course, after the Rangers had the first pick, and then we were waiting for what was the 22nd, then they trade up with Calgary. It gets a little mind numbing after a while because there's only so much you can say about these different kids and stuff. So
Well, it's more exciting when it's live and you could see it stands up, everybody cheering. This was like you're wondering, like this family looked like they could have been a little more happier, and some of them were overjoyed. And I love seeing that. I love seeing these young kids so happy. And
right, Janine, were you at the Garden last year when they drafted Kako? Were you actually in the building?
No.
I'm telling you, the building, there were probably 4,000 people in there. But you would have thought it was the 7th game of the Cup. They had it set up where, the back was blocked off. So it was fairly intimate, right? And every time Hughes' name was mentioned, there would be a rush of boo, boo. Then when this kid, Kako's name was mentioned, the place went crazy. I can't imagine if they had the same setup picture with the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I tell you, the draft is interesting though because the families all come in and everything. They all get the suits on. It's a big deal. It's pretty emotional too. Like there's some kids that leave the draft that don't get drafted, and they're leaving crying. It's a big deal.
That breaks my heart too. As a mother, I watch these kids. I'm like, oh God, somebody pick him.
Well, and the thing is, they don't touch on obviously when they talk about the draft is each team is supposed to get 7 picks. Obviously, to get more or less if they trade them away. But out of those 7 picks, typically, you usually only get 1 or 2 players that ever really play in the National Hockey League.
Oh, if that.
Yeah. So it's like everybody talks about, okay, you're drafted, now you're a New York Ranger or whatever you are. That's really not the case. And that's just the nature of the beast. But
they really let that clock run out every single time. They had the 5 minutes, and then they just these kids they were sitting there the whole time waiting. I'm like, just let's go.
Well, there's just been so much time and expense invested in, the young man along the way. For us, most of us at our time, we just played and, if you're a little bit better, you got to the next level. And if you're a little bit better here, you got to the next level. And, but, there was no edge coach. There was no, I think Good Soil had like shooting coaches and stretching coaches, right, Crash? You had to do that.
Yeah, we did. When we went fishing, you have to stretch down and pick the fish out of the lake. We couldn't afford a net.
Yeah.
And, but it was like I don't remember all that stuff. I was talking to Tommy this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have, you have to call somebody to make sure that was a real story.
Right.
Yeah.
Going back years because. I don't think it's because of the hits in the head, but I think it's maybe it was, the pub related.
Yeah.
But I think that there's, like I watch teams now, and there's so many coaches on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody ever fell, he'd kill like 3 people because he tripped. Like they make concussions all over the place.
Hey, a couple of great things in the draft too. If you guys saw it or not, the one when Winnipeg drafted 10th overall, tribute to Dale Howard.
Oh,
So
that was
10th year in Winnipeg. He was number 10. They were drafting number 10, and they had his wife come out. That was pretty nice.
Yeah,
the one in San Jose when the mother had the sign language. And that was pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that was good. I like that.
I think they did a great job. The NHL in the draft, just the way it was. I mean,
Right.
I'm laughing because I just got a text from my girlfriend, so she's going to be all red in the face now. Tell Tom I love him. I'm trying to be all like serious face, Hannah.
does she need these?
Very intelligent woman.
Teresa, I told him, okay.
She
Very
probably needs these. Send her a pair of these so she can see Tom.
That's right.
I'll stick her.
Hey, Tom, the legend, it's just another one, right? Just
Yeah.
like you're not even surprised. You just sit there and like, well, okay, no big
The
deal.
Legend of Tom Laidlaw.
Yes, exactly.
No, it was. Yeah, I thought that given the circumstances and the time we're in, and everything, the draft was well run, and what I liked is the commissioner still believes that January 1st is a legitimate start date. So how it's going to look from there, who knows?
Yeah, what I liked about it was, sorry, Tommy. What I liked about it was, this wasn't like done in like just the U.S. or just Canada. It was done around the world.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
like you're talking about people sitting in their seats over there, like in whatever it was, 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. It's 3 and 4 in the morning in Sweden.
Right.
So they're sitting there like, and they maybe had a couple cocktails in the afternoon. They were a little tired, the father, and whooping it up with his friends and his family about his son getting drafted. And then can you say something?
Did you guys ever get attached to like a player and like Hank? And then when they got, I mean, I know it's a thing that you guys come and go all the time, but do you ever make like really close friends with somebody and there was a shock to you that they were traded or?
Well, these two guys, when they got traded, it was like I was with Dave from the start of my career. We were roommates in Providence, Rhode Island. And the funny thing was, I remember when Dave got traded, and I'm going to myself, why is he going? Like he was on Wall Street working down there, and I'm going, why is he going?
Right.
And it's and he went, and I think that was it, right? That 1 year.
Yeah. I had 2 more years on a contract, and I had just time to move on. But no, I don't know what the first Tommy. I remember me like being around as long as I was at that time, and it would be half the amount of time that Chris had with the franchise. But I remember, so I got to the rink, and one of the trainers told me that Craig Patrick wanted to see me upstairs. So I had never thought until I got in there, and then he told me, and then I said, okay, to where? And he said, Buffalo. And I said, well, that's not so bad. I mean, my family lives in Southern Ontario, and it's not that far away. And then I was going like, okay, for who? Then you're like,
Yeah.
all right. And it turned out to be, I was part of it. There were 4 or 5 bodies moved. But I do remember when I got back down, my stall was all packed up, and the guys were on the ice and for practice, and I drove out of playland out the back there, and that was the last time I was ever, there.
It was a weird feeling that way, right? I remember.
What goes through your head when that's happening? Like,
Pardon me, Janine?
what goes through your head? Are you like? Are you nervous? Are you happy? Or you?
Well, it's kind of a numb feeling, right? Because both of us, Dave, how many years were you here in New York?
Like 9.
Yeah, and I was
in the franchise 9.
Yeah, I was in my 7th year, and it was like you kind of get the feeling. And I was playing terrible. Phil kind of did me a favor because I wasn't playing well, so I should have known something was up. And with your first trade, you're just kind of naive. But I think both of us, Dave, probably felt like this was our team, right? We were leaders.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were here 10 plus years there. I thought you were okay.
Yeah, 10. Well, I finished. Yeah, I was 10 because in the franchise 10 because I retired after that season. I got traded in December and I retired the following April.
It was 84. It was 84, right?
84. Yeah.
Were you guys all married at the time? Were you first?
No, we were.
Right?
No, all of us married each other. No.
We're from
we
Utah.
were all married then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was married. I was married, and I had my David was my oldest boy, so I had a young boy. And,
you know what, Dave? You mentioned it though. When you get traded, it's weird. One of the first things you want to know is who you get traded for, right? The ego.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah, and I stayed at the rink till 3:00. I think the trade happened like right at 3:00. So when I got home again, Gresh was the only one that had cell phones back then. I didn't. But so nobody could call me to tell me that I'd been traded. I got home and my wife at the time was crying at the front door, and I thought I'd done something wrong or something. And she said, "You've been traded." And she said, I said, "Who was it for?" She said, "I don't know, some big goal scorer or something." And Bernie Nichols was his young goal scorer at the time. And I think it's Bernie Nichols, and that's pretty good. Bobby Carpenter, Tom Laidlaw, Bernie Nichols. And I get home and I get on the phone and I find out it was, what's his name? Marcel Dion. And I thought, like, he's 75 years old for God's sake. He's had a great career. But
Tom, she was only crying because you were home early.
I mean, that was it. Yeah, could have been.
Yeah, so you want to hear a good name. You're getting traded. You want to be like, all right, well,
But it is funny too, though, Dave. Right? I mean, the game, just like you said, you went in your locker room, and the guys were out on the ice. The game moves on for everybody.
It really does. Like literally, that my feeling was it was like, okay, 9.5, 10 years, all like it was just like that. Yeah. I remember driving out, feeling just this, and I wasn't angry. I was more sad than anything for me.
Yeah,
I was sad that that it ended. I'd say, what I think we all agree that I think we talked about this last week. If Orr couldn't finish as a Bruin, or the greats Messier couldn't and Gretzky couldn't finish as Oilers, like who the hell are the rest of us to think?
Yeah.
Other than Gresh, Gresh is one of the outliers.
Somebody has to want you.
I cried my eyes out about Hank. My daughter goes, if you watch one more video, she says, I'm throwing your phone out. Because when I heard the news, I wasn't upset, but watching him start and all the all the games that he was in, and it was just
How do you get your eyes back in?
They say it's a name on the front, not on the back, but you get attached.
How do you get your eyes back in?
When you cried,
you cried your eyes out.
You cried your eyes.
No, I tell you, the thing is with him, he just really was in so many ways. What the franchise had been for a decade, and he was, he's so polished and so, he just didn't do anything. It was almost like Gretzky. You never heard anything bad about Gretz. I mean,
yeah.
The worst thing he ever done, according to Canadians, was marry an American woman.
Yeah, okay.
But you get guys in that stature and the profile, the high profile they have, and even this day, there wasn't a sniff of anything around Hank that you would go.
Well, everybody who made fun of him, they used to call him the Queen instead of the King from the other fan base. So he sucks. He's this and that. The minute he was traded, I got a text from an Islander fan.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like him to stay in New York? I said, why? You would want him? And then I got a text after that from a Caps fan that said, I'm going to send you his New Jersey. He's right where he belongs. I said, wow. I said, I all liked him.
Here's the question, Janine. Why do you have phone numbers of Caps fans and Islander fans? What's all that about?
I have phone numbers of a lot of people.
Wow.
Actually, my daughter's boyfriend is an Islanders fan.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Is he allowed in the house?
Yeah. He gave me a towel. I told you I used it to clean my car.
There you go.
You don't have a cat?
And my daughter's ex-boyfriend is a Caps fan. I got him into hockey.
Oh.
And then because he's Russian and he likes Ovi, he switched on over to the Caps.
Yeah. Wow.
He's the ex.
Did you see the story Larry Brooks wrote about the fact when the Rangers moved up to take that pick, they did it because they thought the Devils possibly were going to take that same kid?
Well, in someday you had to know that they had inkling.
Yeah.
That that was the thing. I thought they were going to take they were talking about the LaPerriere kid, but I guess he had some injury issues. They loved him.
Yeah.
It was totally. It had to be, because why would you move up?
Yeah,
just 3 spots. They had to know that somebody was going to take.
But I thought it was really interesting, because it's the Devils too. Right? That's really the team that they thought was going to take them. So
yeah. Well, the Devils' first pick was a defenseman, wasn't it? Was that Trice? No, I can't remember who they took. But anyway, So you had to know. Well, actually, I had gotten a text that they were in conversation to move the pick before it was announced.
Oh.
So. Then you had to think that something was up. And, So. But anyway, it's all.
I was kind of surprised there wasn't more deals and trades. There's a lot of talk about players being moved. The other big thing they're talking about now is going to be a lot of guys that don't get qualifying offers. We just released them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the thing is that you got the hard cap, right? And now, how are you going to spend money? It's guys like, well, I guess Pietrangelo would probably get money somewhere, right?
He will. Krug will get his money. Corey Krug from.
Yeah, he should, right? You would think.
Yep.
I mean, Taylor Hall's kind of an interesting.
He scares me a little bit though. You go long term because he had that great year with Jersey when he was the MVP, but then he hasn't done much after that.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see if the Rangers. I know we talked about D'Angelo earlier, and it was mentioned. He's certainly another story. Another quiet story is probably Jesper Fast. He's been a pretty important guy too. I mean, he's not a dime a dozen character for his role. He's better than that, but he's another guy that when you look at it with Mark Stahl and Hank Vaughn, and it's really only Quickie and Kreider that have a little bit of that still from glory years from 2012 to 15. So
there's a scoop. There's one in Chicago letting.
I saw that yesterday. That Crawford was going to stay in Chicago. So.
Geez, man, I like him still too, man. Like a team like Minnesota, Calgary,
30. Same age as Hank.
38.
No, 35.
How about him for Chicago, right? Maybe Colorado for him in a short-term deal, 1 or 2 year deal.
Yeah.
What do you think about a new goalie that we got?
Well, he's the kid from Western Canada. He's like a 4th or 5th rounder. Fourth.
Yeah.
They have Huska still, and they're pretty high in the Huska kid, who I think is Slovak. He's out of the University of Connecticut. And you have the goaltender whisperer, Benny Allaire, who has done a pretty good job. But really, at 23 and 24, you look at all the UFA goaltenders, they're north of 32 to 38. The Rangers, these guys, if they can both play, that position is set for a while.
Yeah. There's a lot of goalies out there too. I was really surprised by the one where Leonard re-signed in Vegas for the money he did. Like I was surprised they went that many years, but maybe that's because they got him in at $5 million, which is probably a little lighter than most people thought he was going to get. I think, but.
Well, the thing there is, what do they do with who's going to take a flyer at Fleury at 2 years with 7 and change still?
Well, apparently they're trying to get a third team involved.
Yeah, right.
They can eat that $7 million, right, or part of it.
Right.
But even if they buy Fleury out, so like they were paying Fleury over the $7 million, and they paid $5 million to Leonard. So if they buy Fleury out, again, it works out to about the same $7 million that they were going to pay him once they pay him his money on a buyout. So that could be the other possibility too, that they just buy him out. Well,
the thing is too, the thing that's out there, Vegas has become a very attractive spot because apparently Stamkos, who has a no move, don't talk to me loud, don't look at me bad type of contract. The only place he'd go is Vegas.
Wow.
And the same with Pietrangelo too, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Pietrangelo to Vegas. Man, they went to being a team 3 years ago that had a bunch of no-name guys made it to the finals. Now it's they've really changed the aura around that hockey team now, I think.
Well, the thing there too is there's no state tax.
Yep.
No county tax. No city tax. So that money is real money when they're paid. And plus, it'd be interesting. That was a franchise that was one for all for one. Nobody wanted us.
Yep.
Now you go out and you sign a couple big free agent guys, and you make a trade for Pacioretty, you make a trade for Stone. Now you get a little bit slower. You get a lot more multi-millionaires in the room. And all of a sudden, it's just not quite the dynamic story it was when it was young.
Right. And Marc-Andre Fleury is such a well-loved guy, and now they bring this other guy ahead of him. So I agree, Dave. I'm not – and George has done a great job. George McPhee, the former Ranger, did a great job in Washington building that team, and he did a great job building Vegas. But, they're really changing the culture there now. That is a whole different culture they have, that team.
Speaking of George McPhee, Gresh, when I've been asked, for me, pound for pound, he was the toughest guy I ever played with.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
You agree? Huh?
Yeah. He was little jackhammer, man. You remember when he fought Langevin?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Langevin, I'll never forget that because I was on the ice and the puck went around the net and it was and George kind of bumped into him and he gave George one of these, cross check. Next thing I saw, the guy looked like he ran into like a one of those electric knives. He was cut in more places, and the blood was cut. Like he was.
Yeah.
Like George hit him. I'm telling you, I was 10 feet away. George hit him at least 15 times, and the guy didn't know. The guy was trying to swing, but he's going, "How can this little shit?" It was 6'2", 6'3", 225 pounds. George probably weighed 160 pounds at that time.
Right.
I played against Georgia. He went to Bowling Green. I went to Northern. We played against each other. And I didn't know he could fight at all. And I thought I was the toughest guy on the planet at that time. So this little guy's running around and I'm like, get away from me, like, and I'm acting Mr. Tough and everything. And when he came up with the Rangers, the first games he played was against the Islanders and he squared off with Nystrom. And I thought, like, I got to jump in to save him. Like, I'm thinking George's going to get killed. He doesn't know who Nystrom is. So I just get in between the two of them. And George is mad at me. He's yelling at me like, what the heck were you doing? I said, I saved your life, for God's sakes, So they go in the penalty box, they come back out again, then they go at it. And I'm going, oh, my God, thank God I didn't fight him in college.
And I can't tell these stories, but off the ice, George was not shy away from too many things.
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell a couple of stories that happened, but
okay, nobody else will listen. It's just one of those girls.
Yeah, okay. I can give you one story about George.
Uh-huh.
Him and Barry Beck driving through Central Park.
You told me that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, and they're driving through Central Park, and they get in an accident with a taxi cab or something, right? And Bubba had that little rabbit. Remember the little black rabbit or whatever he had? So there's a bunch of kids playing football or playing baseball in the fields over there. So they see Bubba get out of the car and George get out of the car, and they're looking. They're going, "Bubba, you suck." George, they don't know who George is yet, right? So Bubba walks over to the thing, and they're going like, "Bubba, shoot the puck," and then they're all like, "They like Bubba." One guy, there's a hole in the fence like this big. He's reaching his head through to say something to Bubba. George smacks him. Right?
Welcome to New York.
Yeah. The guy's gone, right?
Yeah, knocked out.
So
Yeah.
he goes to back to the car. They get in the car. They go back. I talked to Bubba. Bubba tells me the story. We're starting training camp in at that hotel in Arma. Remember it was Ramada Inn, whatever it was called. Yeah. So we're standing in line getting our pictures, and I know I didn't say to George about what happened. So we're in line. George is next to me, and we're talking. And I go, "George, were you in the city the other day?" He goes, "No." I go, "Oh, okay." So we're walking, waiting for get our pictures taken, right? The beauty pictures. Come out of bed. You look like death warmed over. So a couple guys go by, a couple more guys, and George goes, "Why? What did you hear?" I go, "I don't know." I says, "I just know this guy that's from Brooklyn, and his kid was in the Central Park, and they think that you're the one that hit him." And he goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah, the guy's like a fucking mafia guy. Guy's like a mafia guy or something. Excuse me. Guy's like a mafia guy or something." And George goes, "What?" I go, "Yeah. Do you know that George that whole week never left his room just to go to skate?" I finally had to tell him.
You got to think twice about who you punch in the city.
Oh my God. He was like, "That wasn't true?" No. He goes, "Oh," he was like fuming. He was laughing though. I got him for like about 7 or 10 days. He never left his room. He'd go to practice, come back, go to the game, exhibition game, stay in his room, never left his room.
It's a good. You speak of those pictures they used to take of us, right? And then it wasn't, those camp pictures, right? You look at some of those pictures, you're like, oh my God, we just get out of jail somewhere.
Oh my God, like didn't they have a comb back then? I know we didn't have cell phones, but we didn't have a comb either.
No, you had a cell phone, Gresh.
Well, that's because Tommy put all that stuff in it all the time. We couldn't
get the hair dryers and stuff.
I could have found the comb back then.
I remember Phil was like the first guy. Like Phil had like a professional You know, it was almost like the Beyonce hair blowing,
That's all right.
scarf, you know, the shirt on, and you know, the rest of it. Like I don't say, yeah, lots of times now, or not lots of times, periodically somebody will have one of those old PR shots. Oh my God. There once.
Like I honestly think it wasn't us. I believe it was. I think it was the bad cameras back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Gay's hair was just in place.
Oh, Doogie, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm sure
we
he
got
had
rid of that. We got rid of that too.
Yeah, that first haircut he got in New York was right down to the wood, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you know, he was. He never talked before that. Never talked after until he got on TV.
That is funny with Duke. Like he never talked. To see him on TV and talking all the time, I was like, where the heck did that come from? He messed it up.
All he did was smile. I remember Dave when him and Murder come onto the ice. We were skating around and we were all standing there. They're going down to the minors.
Murder was whistling away, tying
Yeah,
up.
he was bent over tying his skates going. he couldn't hear a thing. Oh God!
What do the Ranger fans want the Rangers to do with Strome and with D'Angelo? What do the Rangers want, the fans?
Most of them want D'Angelo. I haven't really heard much about anybody talking about Strome.
Right.
At all.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the thing with Strome is going to be if there's a price they can re-sign him for a decent term. Because I think you've got at some point you've got to commit now that Elias Anderson, they finally got at a certain point too. You know, you've got prospects. You always want to have prospects. But at a certain point, okay, you either got to push the prospects up a little bit, or believe in your prospects. And it really that's the thing with both Jeff Gorton and JD, and they've been around the block a little bit. You know, back to Gorton's time, he built that Bruin team that won the Cup in 2011, and JD's track record's been pretty good.
Yeah, a big role built to St. Louis, and they won.
Right.
What draft picks did you think was an absolute steal?
What's that, Janine?
What draft pick did you think was
the Rangers?
Yeah.
Well, apparently the kid at 60, the winger out of he's up from Toronto. A lot of people are talking pretty high on him.
Yeah.
You know, he's another big body. But, you know, not having seen him, and they're still so young. But that's the one name, I haven't seen him play. That's the one name I've heard people talk about that might be the guy that, is going to surprise him. He's like a Corey Perry type, big body, maybe good hands, goes to spot, doesn't have the, maybe that kind of, the thing that Perry is. But that's the one guy I heard.
You know, Gene, it's a great question, but it's really hard right now, right? I mean, it's almost like you got to wait for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I remember when I was in the agent business, I had Brian Berard. He was taking his draft first overall. And Jerome McGinley was taken like 12th overall, I think it was. You know, he ends up having a Hall of Fame career. You know, you don't know who's really going to be the steal of the draft, I think.
Yeah, it's not an exact science. The year Gresh and I were drafted, remember Greg Jolly?
Yeah.
He was another pick, and he had basically a cup of coffee, and that was it.
Yeah.
Rick Hampton was 2. He got drafted by Oakland. He had a cup of coffee also basically as a career.
Yeah.
So, it's not an exact science, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And now I heard, this when they finally with Elias Anderson. See, the thing when you watched Anderson, and again, he was the 7th overall pick, and basically that pick was the result of the trade with Arizona, right? With Stepan and Raanta going, and they got D'Angelo. But the thing is, watching Anderson over the top, he never did one thing really well, like that really stood out, and yet the sum of his parts really didn't stand out either.
What did you say, Dave?
Yeah, listen, and the thing is nothing. He worked hard, prepares. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He did have kind of a streak of, I think good arrogance to him. I think he might have gotten a little bit ahead of himself as to but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to play. And if you can't, if you don't have one thing, like there's always the thing, right? I think the first thing to say is if the guy can think or if the guy can move his feet.
Yeah.
I think one of those two skills, you're probably going to get a longer look and get a better chance. But then if some of your parts just don't kind of add up, you're going.
There really wasn't anyone who said, "Oh, damn."
Yeah.
Did he ever find his medal?
No.
Was he the one that tripped opening night, tripped over the mic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's
And
right.
he's the one who threw his medal too, which I think turned a lot of people off.
He didn't trip. He was looking for his medal.
I didn't have a problem with throwing his medal. I didn't say, you know what, the kid's a competitor.
You didn't he, Dave? Didn't you teach him that?
Yeah.
It's not gold, why keep it?
You think they'll finally pick a captain or an alternate, or
Well,
is it just going to keep going this way?
Is there a guy that's jumping out at you right now that's that leader? I don't know.
the only guy that might be really, because he's come a long way, it might be Kreider.
Right.
But I'm not sure, because Zibanejad's got another, because it's a lot of ways it's a kiss of death to get the captaincy.
Yeah. I don't know. Zibanejad, I mean, I love the player as a player, but has he got that personality to be the captain?
He does have a lot of respect, and but he's only got two. He's an unrestricted free agent in 2 years, which is still 2 years in this day and age is a long time.
He's
I
not.
would wait. I would wait right now.
Yeah,
And when this number one pick in 2 years.
Actually, honestly, the guy that has all the intangibles to me to be the captain, believe it or not, is Ryan Lindgren.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not, again, and will he even be around long? But he has all the intangibles. I'll never forget, it was the draft, it was the Kravtsov, that draft, they had at the Garden, we had a little panel discussion, and it was Hedel, Hayek, and there were four or five of them. And they all kind of looked to Lindgren to kind of be their spokesman, and he was the same age. It's just that kind of intangible. And then you watch him play. And he's got a gritty game. Again, it's just it's an observation, but the intangibles of a guy that's a leader would be Lindgren. But I just don't know that there's. To me, the most important guy is still David Quinn. And until he's not the most important guy, your room hasn't come to where it needs to be yet, or your group. And why should it be? You throw Trouba into the mix, you throw Panarin into the mix, you throw everybody into the mix, and now that mix needs to kind of come together. I think anyway. I know.
Yeah, well, I think they got kind of like when the whole shutdown thing happened in March. I think that hurt the Rangers. I think they were flying. They were playing well.
Yeah, exactly.
Mika was on fire. The little guy, the bread man, he was, as my mother calls him. How much better can you play than he played?
Yeah, I think Zibanejad too.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. It was like,
Why did it affect the Rangers more than anybody else, Crush?
I think Tom, you played a long time, and when you get on a roll, and it just
I'm butter.
Butter roll.
I've got jokes too now.
Bang, another one, Janine.
What's that butter called? It's not really butter. Okay, I got you. But anyway, they were on a roll, and they kind of like, I think they lost a little of that intensity when they got back to playing.
Yeah, but I hear you. I don't think you're wrong. I said, why more the Rangers than anybody else? It seemed like it did affect them, but
I think that I don't know, but I guess maybe somebody upstairs wanted them not to win. That's why they got the first round pick.
No, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. It was so much, but the 10 games prior, they were below 500. So in February, mid-January to February, they were good. And then it started to, and their schedule down the stretch was not going to help them either. I'm not sure they were a playoff team if it all played out, which it's only conversation, right? Because the reality worked the way it worked. But I think it was a real eye opener.
Right.
For the 3 games they played against Carolina. Go, okay, let's just everybody take a deep breath here, and it's not order.
Everybody went in thinking they owned Carolina.
Yeah, right.
And boy, were we mistaken.
right off the bat, when Brady Shea knocks out Jesper Foss, I mean that's the first time Brady Shea's hit anybody in about 5 years. Right? So he didn't do a whole lot of that.
Yeah, and then very little pushback.
Yeah, yes,
very little pushback, and we might be a bit from the dinosaur age. Yeah. And it's not so much you got to go out right away, but he shouldn't have been allowed to get off of that scot-free.
Yeah, it should have been like a constant pounding, right? Yeah, you don't want to take a bad penalty, but that's going to wake your bench up, and it didn't wake the bench up. It kind of.
But that's the thing, you can't, like, again, I think we did talk about this. So Lemieux's not in the lineup, right? So he would have been the guy, but and then he might have been the catalyst. But it needs to be everybody, anybody that's around him. And listen, as I said, after the hit for the next 2 games, I absolutely despised Brady Shea.
Yeah.
And then after the series was over, okay, we're done competing. I'd love if if I had a daughter, if he married my daughter, I'd love to. But I'm telling you, when it comes to competing, and he got off the hook. You're not in a lot of ways. I think it showed they're just. Which is right. Why would they know what to do where they're at?
Kyle Dubas of Toronto came out recently and said that he's going to make that team harder to play against. Like they're talking about Wayne Simmons and guys like that. So it's that same kind of thing, right? But I'm just not sold on, though, now to go out and get a couple of more physical players. Does that make your whole team tougher? Or is it just you've got 2 more physical players? Like I like that whole team tough mentality. Like, and you're saying, Dave, I think with Rangers, that's probably what you want to see a little bit more at that situation, that they were team tough, right? That the whole team got together and got back at Brady Shea.
Yeah. And I think, well, what do you think, Gresh?
You need like a lead horse. You need somebody to start the ball rolling. Like listen, we played on some teams in the 70s. It was Nicky, right?
Right.
And as the years Nicky was there more, it became Nicky was when something happened. Petio was around. I think maybe if Lemieux would have been in the lineup, and he's still not a whatever you want to call him, like a
right. Well, that role is different.
He's not a Reeves, whatever. But you need one of those guys that you need some big bodies. They should have pounded him a little more. Got after him. Like what?
Right.
You're down 4-1, so your stick accidentally slides along the ice when he's laying there and he starts playing a little dirty. You got to play dirty too a little bit. I mean,
totally.
You watch those guys in Tampa. That little kid, a young guy, number 9, but I can't remember his name all the time. But he had 9 hits one game.
Yeah,
right.
Like even
you don't have to be 200 pounds to hit somebody.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I think too is, as we mentioned before, there's some big kids they've drafted, and really, apparently, Lafreniere has that kind of mentality too. Now, again, you can't hang that on 18 and 19-year-olds.
Right.
But hopefully, the culture starts to change a little bit, or recognition. And listen, David Quinn, he's not a type of guy that is not telling turn the other cheek sort of thing.
Oh, never. No, never.
It just needs to grow, because when you look at it, I think, and Kako, he can be that. He's got that Finnish kind of. The Finns and the Canadians are a lot alike when it comes to competing and grit. Mm-hmm. When you get your top players, there's no question. A guy like Reeves, and there were big boys in that Vegas team too. But if you can get your top guys, and I don't think there's any shock, 94, number 11. He wasn't a guy that just played on the outside. He wasn't a guy that, So the ideal thing, I think, is if you can get your top guys to play that way, then you've got a lot better shot.
Yeah, to play a hard game, right?
Play hard. Make it hard.
I think so.
Well, this number one pick, he's 190 some pounds already.
Right.
He's 18 years old. I watched some of his clips last night. I mean, or was that this morning? I don't. One day runs into the next, so it could have been this morning early. It wasn't 3:30 though. Okay, but like I watched him on. Like I don't know whether he those guys are slow or he was just fast.
Well, he's the kid that everybody was the consensus best player at that age in the world. So
Yeah. No, I hope he rocks New York.
But again, just like with Kako last year too, right? I mean, there's all these expectations. We do have to remember he's 18 years old, right?
Right.
And then,
No.
The
No,
difference-
absolutely, Tom.
The difference with Lafreniere, he's played on a smaller ice surface.
Yeah.
his whole life. And we're talking again. The one thing with Capo is when he did that circle the wagons thing in Michigan. You're not doing that in the National Hockey League. You're not as an 18-year-old.
yeah.
Well, you maybe get around once, but the second time you'll be going the other way.
Yeah, he'd be going the other way. And it was really interesting to watch him because you get a veteran guy like Green. Green's not a physical defender, but he's a smart veteran defender. There are a lot of guys like that in the league.
Yeah.
That know how to defend and defend with experience, and they're not biting on that first spin.
Yeah.
So, but that's all part and parcel with growing, and you shouldn't expect. You really shouldn't expect an 18 or 19-year-old to carry your team.
No kidding. Like Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, when they do it, like it's freakish almost. And I mean that in a good way. I mean, to be that mature both on and off the ice at 18 years old.
Right.
Like you look at Nathan McKinnon, it took him till 21 or 22 before he became Nathan McKinnon, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's 26, 24, 25 now, and he's legit.
Yeah.
But you look at him, Crosby came in at that young age and was scary.
Right.
How good he was, but you can't expect too many players to come along like that every decade even.
Right.
But you guys, because you're on the cell phone, like you got people calling it.
I used to call Dave on the cell phone back in the 70s.
No, you didn't have one though. You were the only one that had one.
No, Dave had one.
Oh.
We all had it back then. We just didn't want to bring him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't want to be ahead of the curve.
We had to live next door to each other to have a cell phone.
I got a question here.
Hey, Janine, fire away.
Okay. Someone wants to know, how do you guys feel about the plus-minus stat?
Well, it depends. I think if you got one guy that is plus 30 and the rest of the team is minus 10, I think it means something. But to me, if everybody is like all like plus 20 or all minus 20, it's more of a statement what the team's like.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. If you're on for the last 2 minutes of a game and you're losing by one, it sucks because you become minus.
I always, I mean, that was just one of the parameters in our that you got judged by whomever.
Yeah.
And you know what, I liked it when I was plus, and I didn't like it when I was minus. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, but it was one of the, and then, the analytics now, they're just so much more specific. I do, if a player's, if you're not on a very good team for a long time, there's a good chance you're going to be a minus player.
Right.
Regardless of.
Speaking of analytics, did you see the Yankees the other game, game 2 there, where they started one pitcher, kept him in for an inning, and put another guy in, trying to bait the other team into putting a certain lineup out there?
Yeah. Well, baseball is now, and I don't understand it well enough, but when I've talked to, it's basically driven now by analytics.
Yeah.
As far as different things and stuff. And,
yeah. Another 10 years, we won't need players.
right.
Robots out there, like.
Right.
What is?
Yeah. No. But it's it's another tool. I think it's. It's another tool that you probably, if you use it right, you probably some value there. And
It just can't be everything, right? I mean,
no, I don't think so. I think you look at, there's some franchises that have bought into it with both feet and haven't been quite successful. Arizona for one, and
Florida.
Dubas, yeah, Florida, Dubas, in Toronto. I mean, I think he's maturing a little bit, Dubas, as far as understanding that it's not all pure numbers. And
Does that measure your heart too? Does that measure your heart? No.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's
They actually do have psychological testing where they can test players, athletes for their heart and their intelligence and how they'll react in certain situations. Not a lot of teams. Some teams have used that. It's a big thing to some teams. And we talked. There's an old coach of mine that has a company that does that.
Right.
Pretty interesting stuff. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, people use it now when they hire people for jobs and that those testings and everything. So.
Well, again, it's probably because now the more data that gets studied, right, the more numbers over time, then patterns do become something that you follow. Yep. And I think it was always interesting to me. The only way you could really see what a guy or a gal was playing hockey was throw the puck out there, and how aggressive are they going to try and get it? How long are they going to try and keep it? And how soon do they want to get rid of it? When somebody's coming at them. Right. So that's from a hockey person's standpoint. And that's hard to kind of then put into kind of black and white when you've got to explain it where math is 1 and 1 equals 2. So you've got to watch.
Yeah, the eye test.
Right.
Yeah. And it's different too. Sometimes the player in practice or whatever is going to look fantastic. You get into a game. So you're right. I mean, there's the analytics where you can study things, but it's also that eye test. You see them out there, how they react in a situation, how they react when a teammate scores a goal, how they react when they get scored against, and all those kinds of things. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit like when I play golf, right? I go to the range to warm up, and I'm like, okay, I'm tour bound today. This is it. And take the 30-yard walk to the first tee, first swing, and it's a duck hook to the right. And what the hell happened?
That wasn't part of the plan.
It's just
that makes us happy, Dave. I just want to know that makes us happy when you do that. You know it's going to be an exciting day.
How do you think Gretzky would have come back in the 70s for analytics? He probably would have home.
You'd be surprised though, Gresh. Like he was really into studying the game. Like,
oh no, I understand that.
Yeah. But his analytics, you mean? If people ran like the guy was 6 feet, 6'1", $175.
Analyze him, yeah.
But I agree with you, Gresh. I mean,
there's some guys they're just up there. I mean, it's like you can't like. You look at Bobby Orr. Like you watch some of his things, and you watch. And okay, he was a phenomenal skater in that day and powerful, right? And you watch guys chasing him. They're panting like a dog chasing a car. He's dropping his glove, going around the net, picking the glove up, and he's not even breathing.
Yeah,
hard. And that was Orr. I mean. I remember that game. I think it was Minnesota or Oakland. He had the puck for like a minute and a half in a 2-minute penalty. He dropped his glove once, went back and picked it up.
Oakland. Yeah.
Like
Carol Badman tell that story.
But I think those type of players you can't really put into any kind of category to figure out how they got there, because they have you guys all know you played with Gretzky. You played when we played against him. Like you'd go over to check him. Another guy would come over. Then the puck is in the net. Right. He would just dump it so fast you couldn't catch up to it.
Yeah, the biggest thing with him was like he was determined to be the best player to ever play the game. I mean, I've told people before that I'd say to myself, we both had dreams, we both accomplished our goals, and my goal was to play in the NHL. His goal was to be the best player, right? Yeah. And to me that was the difference. He had that from a very young age. He had decided that he wanted to be that great of a player. I think like most of us, and nothing wrong with it. We decided we wanted to play in the NHL. He had that rare ability to. To me, you're totally right, Getch. There's no special skills. He wasn't the biggest, wasn't the fastest skater, didn't have the best shot.
But then you watch him, like I think it was against Calgary. He's coming down the left wing, killing the penalty, takes a slap shot. I think Vernon was playing net, and he puts it right over his shoulder in the top corner. Like we could all try that with like 100 pucks, and I'm sure we could hit the goalpost once. Getting into that top little corner, like there's not much room there. But he could do he was just.
And it was meant to dress, and I hear you, but to me, it was just like he had so much confidence in himself too. I mean, obviously, you have to become Wayne Gretzky before you can have that confidence, because he would try some play, turn the puck over, but he would just get back out there again and do the same thing all over again, just make it work. But again, he'd
Yeah,
become
I mean, he was 9 years old playing the 12-year-old league. He scores 300 goals.
Yeah.
I mean, he must have knew something back there that we didn't know.
No, yeah. He just, I mean, he is the greatest,
Yeah.
basically the player of all time. And
Well,
thank God the rest of us, thank God he was there. Like, at least the rest of us could all be just kind of normal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, we all were that way, but there was just, you could pick a decade out where each guy was like up there, right? Like you got the last decade was Ovechkin and Crosby, and then you go back years back, you got Lemieux, you got you can even put Messi in that group a little bit because the way he was just such a fierce competitor. I mean, what round was he drafted in? Third?
second or third, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he signed the World Hockey too, right?
Yeah.
Signed,
Yeah.
Yeah, he
came
played the
home.
World Hockey, but he stumbled around a little bit in the World Hockey, but he win 6 cups stumbling too many times.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you've got to regret, you had a cell phone in 1950. So,
No, it was I was going to use a cell phone that day. I couldn't. For some reason, I must have left it in my car, my electric car, and it wasn't charged.
There we go.
well,
Do you
Gene, thanks very much, Gene. You got your NYPD hat on. Good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
I just have one more question. You think Igor's ready?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is, the thing about Lundqvist too was he was pretty durable. I mean, you know what? He took the shot in the throat one year, but that's the thing with Shesterkin. Now, he certainly has had a good start. There's all kinds of reasons to be excited. He's been a winner wherever he's been. His numbers,
Right.
but he still has to put in his time yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing I always said. We won't respect as much respect as we've given Hank for what he's done, rightly so.
Right.
Until somebody comes along and has the same sort of impact on the franchise that he had for as long as he had, we'll all be sitting there going, boy, if we only had Hank.
That's wonderful. You're very right. I don't think anybody will understand how good he actually was.
Yeah, so he's gone. So anyway, so that's my story.
Janine, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jane. Good work.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Tom, it's good to
See you
chat.
next week.
Till next week.
Mr.